How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard, and this is a show about wrestling. And this week, we thought we would bring you a little bit of news and notes because the entire wrestling world right now is, it's dying down at this point, but they're still talking about CM Punk getting fired from AEW. Now, when I did my recap of All In, we talked a little bit about the incident then and, the way I described it and the way it was kind of presented in the news at that point was somewhat vague, but maybe leaning a little bit towards, to me anyway, like it was Jack Perry was more of the instigator and that we really weren't sure who backstage started the fight. But, it was just kind of revealed that CM Punk said something to the effect of, "Do we have a problem?" So it seemed, I don't want to say innocent, but it seemed a little bit, like he was just reacting to what had happened. But so we now know more details about this, obviously. And I should add this: we're putting this under the banner of our fully loaded questions, where we have a little bit of time to prepare. And Leonard didn't really need time to prepare because he's seen the same news bits that I have. If you follow wrestling, this is what people are talking about. And
I think any wrestling fan that has seen these has developed an opinion, and we'll go over that. As we go, but I will say that I think we'll never truly know exactly what happened as far as who was maybe the more at fault or the more at blame. At this, we certainly know what the outcome is, though.
Well, so on that note, let's go over some of the news that has come out. And then we'll kind of start with our questions to Leonard. And myself, obviously, will comment. So, like we said, at the event, it was reported that Punk was involved in a backstage altercation with Jack Perry regarding comments Perry made during his match earlier in the 0 hour part of the show. It was a reference to Punk denying Perry the opportunity to use real glass during segments on Collision. So it was revealed that obviously another version, and this would be a neutral source who was not a wrestler, but was there and witnessed it. And his version was that right after Perry came to the back, Punk went nose to nose with him aggressively and asked him if he had a problem. That person said Perry said he was just looking to get heat as a heel. Punk shoved him hard. Perry got in his face, and in that version, Punk sucker punched him and went for a choke. People immediately broke it up, and Khan was yelling at Punk to let him go. It was also reported that at some point after that, CM Punk, quote-unquote, lunged at Tony Khan. But according to Dave Meltzer, in one of his tweets, or X, whatever we're calling it now, said that lunging was, I'm paraphrasing, was putting it nicely. So apparently whatever CM Punk did towards Tony Khan was a little bit more aggressive than just lunging.
And I had heard that he had knocked monitors down on Khan.
Right.
Which, and had broken some, I believe, as well with that.
So after an investigation into the altercation was conducted by AEW, Punk was terminated for just cause from his contract on September 2nd under the unanimous recommendation of the AEW Discipline Committee as well as outside legal counsel. Punk's termination was announced on X, formerly Twitter, by AEW's official account, and was also announced during the opening of that night's episode of Collision, which was in Chicago, by the way, where AEW President and CEO Tony Khan stated the incident was regrettable and it endangered people backstage, which would allude to what Leonard said about the monitors. He later stated, "Never in all this time have I ever felt until last Sunday that my security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show. I don't think anybody should feel that way at work. I don't think the people I work with should feel that way. And I had to make a very difficult choice today." So last time we did our all-in recap, I made a comment, something to the effect of Tony Khan needs to make a choice or that choice will be made for him, being in my head that CM Punk would just quit, which apparently he did say he quit at some point, depending on what you believe. But Tony Khan made the choice. So Yeah, CM Punk is gone, and there are a lot of different facets to this that Leonard and I can discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So, my first question, and we'll kind of do this in parts, Leonard. So you can be there,
Okay.
you can talk about this however you want. Should CM Punk have been fired after the first incident last year at All Out?
No. And if you compare to other, say, sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, if you would have an altercation with a teammate, sometimes they might fire you or trade you. A lot of the times they're going to suspend you and fine you. And I think that's what happened there. I think you have to give an opportunity for them to correct their actions and to make things up. I think you need to give that opportunity. And I think that's something that I haven't heard a lot about with this is the fact that he had already one strike and possibly more if you want to talk about how he had related to some other people backstage and comments he's made like in the media scrums and things like that. But he had one suspendable offense already on his record. So, no, I wouldn't have fired him. I would do what was done because I think that is what they would have done in other sports.
Right, I agree. So when one of the things that's been annoying me when I look online, and I got to tell you, Leonard, some of the groups we're in, there's parts about them that I love on
Sure.
Facebook, and then there's parts about them that just drive me insane. And, like, and a lot of the similar comments I'm seeing are, "Oh, this would never happen in WWE. He would have been gone the first time." Like, or Tony Khan should have done something about it the first time. That's why we're in the situation we're in now. I'm so tired of like this. We're putting WWE up on this pedestal of like holier than thou, and they've never done anything wrong. And my God, how would Vince have handled this? He probably would have fired him right away, and then he would have brought him back a year later. Like,
Yeah.
like, like Vince has given second, third, multiple opportunity to so many people in the past for yes, other types of situations, but like, come
Mhm.
on. Like this is a 4-year plus company dealing with a situation versus if we're just going with Vince Jr., 40-year plus company. So like I do think that people are being a little bit hard like on Tony Khan. And like the fact that there are, and as we'll get to some of the comments made by other wrestlers, there's pretty much two different camps to this. And the fact that there are two different camps should tell people that, you know what, maybe this wasn't such an easy decision to make. You listen to people and they might think, oh, well, this should have happened. This should have happened. You'll see that even wrestlers and, wrestling personalities have separate opinions on this. But I agree with what you're saying. He had a suspended offense, and, it's like he was injured. He was suspended, go home, cool off. When he came back, people forget. Like when he came back, there was a meeting with Chris Jericho because Chris Jericho is one of the people that got in CM Punk's face back then. So they were trying to come to a compromise, and that compromise was reached. And they had been trying, I think, to have business done with CM Punk and the Elite. And some people would say that the Elite were inflaming the situation. There was apparently a meeting scheduled at All In or All Out or one of the TVs. I forget which event, but that when CM Punk arrived, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks pulled out of that meeting and said they didn't want to do it. So take for that what you will. But I think that the first choice of suspending him was the logical choice because let's face it, we're not dealing with an enhancement talent here. We're dealing with one of the top stars in your company. So
Yeah, your quote unquote real world champion or whatever he was
right,
calling himself at the time. He
right. So
had
like,
his own show. They went so far out of their way to compromise with him that basically Collision was his show. So
yeah,
he could be separate from the people that he didn't care for,
right.
while also having some, I don't know per se, creative control. But everything that I've kind of heard was if he wasn't in charge of it, he was kind of nodding his head yes or no at what was coming down the pike.
Yeah, I don't think that there would have been a Vince Russo Hogan situation where like Tony Khan would have said, "Well, you need to, do the job for this guy." Like I think that they were kind of, for lack of a better word, letting Punk do kind of what he wanted,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
and
which is
I'll take
okay.
a sidebar here and say I think that's a problem with AEW is that Tony Khan lets too many guys do what they want. You know, you've got Chris Jericho doing whatever he wants. You got Omega and the Bucks doing whatever they want. When Cody was there, Cody had the Cody verse of just this little pocket dimension or whatever he felt like doing that didn't influence
Yeah.
anything. I mean that I think hurts the overall flow and tone and makeup of your show. I think that's a big problem. Is Khan is letting just too many people do whatever they want.
Well, yeah, I mean that certainly could be. I mean, at least in the case of Jericho, like he is not afraid to put people over when he sees the benefit of it. As for the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, we'll get to that. I might have a mini recap of All In here if we have time. Um, so um, the other question here, Leonard, is how do you think CM Punk's firing was handled?
Um, I think it was probably handled in a best case scenario for AEW. You know, they made a formal statement. They did that formal statement in the outlets that they needed to do that. I think you read the statement that Khan said. I think it was very short and distinct and to the point. That was definitely written for him by the legal team. Those are not his words. You can tell that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but it was very short and to the point, and why the actions need to be taken. I can't really think of a better way that they could have done it. The fact that they had to do it in Chicago was just bad timing, but they had no way to control that. They already had the show booked. So yeah, I mean, I don't fault how they did it. And you haven't asked yet, but I will say I do agree with the firing at this point. He already had a strike.
yeah,
He had tension with a lot of other people backstage. Not only did he attack another wrestler, but he attacked the owner of the company.
right.
And from what we're hearing and seeing, and how many people, if you went in tomorrow and you choked out a coworker and then lunged, quote unquote, at your boss, would you be working there within the next 5 minutes? No, you would not.
Right.
So that was perfectly, I think, fair to fire him at this point. And I think they did it in probably the best way that they could have. I can't think of a better way, at least off the top of my head.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think that they had to do it as we heard more details about this situation come out. I think that this was the only course of action that they could take. I really do. And I will kind of give more of my thoughts here as I transition into some of the thoughts of other people that have come out. Kevin Sullivan, for whatever reason, has commented. He has a podcast. That's why.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anybody with a podcast has
Right.
commented on this, I'm sure.
Right. He's on AEW firing CM Punk. He said that really surprises me. It shows you how the business has changed. I mean, back in the day, there were scuffles in the dressing room, but it ended up in a handshake afterward. I don't think this is not the end of this journey. I don't think. He said on Tony Khan announcing Punk's firing before the start of Collision, it took a lot of balls on Tony's part to fire him before the show going into his hometown. I salute Tony for doing that because if he had done it today, people would have said it was bait and switch. We all have growing pains, especially in a job that he took over, started a company from scratch, and had a lot of problems. If the problems we heard that got out, how many were there that we didn't hear? Oh, how many of the problems were there we haven't heard about is basically what he's trying to say. I was reading that very choppy. But
Sure.
so I wanted to read this part because of what he said about, back in the day, scuffles in the dressing room, but ended up in a handshake afterwards. That kind of goes to my point of I don't think it was the right call to fire him last year.
Mhm.
Because after all, that was a scuffle in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And it might not have ended in a handshake, but it ended in a logical way. People got suspended. We're not mid South. It's not Bill Watts here, like making people fight it out. So,
Hmm.
that's why I read, that part. Other people that have sided with what Tony Khan has said are Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett as well. Now, obviously, Jarrett is with AEW,
Yes.
but that should be noted. But I'm mentioning Kevin Nash specifically because what Kevin Nash said is something that I actually very much agree with, and that is he thinks that he said he thinks CM Punk like needs mental help, and I agree. I
I would
agree.
agree with that at this point. Yes.
I think that he at the very least has anger issues that he needs to work out. Like, I mean, should Jack Perry have said what he said on air? No. Like, there should, he should not have been able to do that. But when somebody comes back and is like, well, I was just trying to get heat, like, and you proceed to beat the crap out of them, like, there's something wrong there. But it's like I said, this is not the only issue. I mentioned in the All In recap, like he's had issues with Ryan Nemeth, and now in the past week we've heard that early on he got in William Regal's face and accused him of being a stooge for Triple H, and that he doesn't trust him. And like this is clearly a guy that has some issues and has trouble handling himself in a pro wrestling universe these days. And
He's paranoid. He has anger management issues. The fact that he can't get along with anybody. Initially last year, I felt this was Punk standing up for himself against Omega and the Bucks and their people trying to run the locker room. That's
right,
what I thought it was initially, and it
right,
might have been that, but he has devolved in his personality from that point.
right.
And I agree, he should probably seek mental help. While we're here, I do want to touch upon something you said about how Jack Perry claimed he was just trying to get heat. That's a lie, because who would know what he was talking about?
Only one person.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a provable lie.
I mean, and maybe he was trying to spark like I'm trying to think of other people that have tried to do this in the past. There are examples of people that are trying you get yourself into like a work shoot type situation where maybe he was trying to, in a horrible way, start a program with CM Punk somehow.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
Jericho tried to do that with Goldberg back in WCW. If you
thank you.
remember
That's what
that,
I was
that's a
trying
good
to.
example.
Yes, and
Yeah.
now it wasn't obviously a good way to do that. Currently, Jack Perry is still suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what's going to happen there?
And I agree with that suspension as well. He was involved. You can't send a message of, oh, well, he was just there and he felt the blunt. No, he was part of it. He instigated the situation. So he needed to be suspended. And I agree with the suspension there.
Yeah, so like some of the people that think he should have done, Tony Khan should have made a decision early. Booker T is one of them. Tony Khan should have stepped in a little bit earlier, put his foot down. If Tony Khan can't do it, he should hire someone that can do it. It's hard being the bad guy. Eric Bischoff, who has spouted off incessantly about Tony Khan. By
Yeah.
the way, side note, Eric Bischoff has made appearances on AEW years ago. I don't know what happened there, if he was stiffed on a paycheck, if Tony Khan made a pass at Eric Bischoff's wife. Something clearly happened to make Eric Bischoff. And now the only reason his podcast is getting as many news bites as it is because every week they start out by talking about current events, basically having Eric Bischoff just kind of go to town on what he doesn't like about AEW.
As you know, I'm currently reading Eric Bischoff's second autobiography, Grateful,
Right.
which I have signed, bought it that way. And so I haven't got up to that section yet. Once I get to the AEW section,
Okay.
I'll let you know what he says. I'm currently up to him having entered TNA with Hogan in 2010.
Okay. Well, I'm anxious to hear about the book. Um, so yeah, I mean, we basically now we have a situation where AEW no longer has CM Punk. And this week I was texting with a friend of the show, Ronnie, a lot. And Ronnie is a big CM Punk fan. And I wanted to mention that here because I made a comment to Ronnie that I think CM Punk has made himself unemployable. And Ronnie disagreed, because it's pro wrestling. And I think maybe what he was alluding to was the fact that you never say never in this business. which is proven to be pretty true. However, one of the other things about the groups that I've been reading that is, and just God, the news media for wrestling, they are awful, 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 awful. I mean, and they're all saying the same thing. They post rumors as if they're fact, and it's just crazy to me because they're posting this rumor like, oh, at one point when CM Punk was suspended, he was open to the idea of returning to WWE, and he had apparently made a suggestion of debuting at the Rumble and having somebody eliminate him and having his opponent be Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Stop. Can we please just stop with the WWE stuff? Like, I'm sorry. Yes, never say never, but I will tell you right here and now, I'll make this bet with Leonard. I will wear whatever wrestler's t-shirt he wants me to wear. I will buy it and wear it no matter how crazy or silly it is. I will wear it on air if CM Punk were to go back to WWE. Because
I will take you up on that. And I'll have to find a doozy to lay on you if that happens. I'll chime in here and say I would not be surprised if that happens. Is it happening tomorrow? No. Would it happen within the next, say, year or two? Yeah. I mean, I think because there's still money there. There is still money there. Whether it's Cody Rhodes finally beating Roman Reigns and having the belt, or whether it's Reigns being the champion for 8 years in a row, or whatever it is, and then they're in the ring, they're cutting a promo, and you hear, like Mussolini, license to print money. It's a license to print money. And Vince McMahon, if he's still in charge, never turns down money.
And see, that is the key issue, what you just said. If Vince McMahon is still in charge, because by all accounts, Vince is still around, but the person doing the creative is somebody that we know hates CM Punk, and that is Triple H. In no universe can I see Triple H, because Triple H is not Vince McMahon.
Okay.
I cannot see him bringing back CM Punk in any way, shape, or form. And before you comment, on the other side of the coin, let's say for a second Triple H was like, you know what? Like Leonard said, like, you know what? There's money to be made here. Let's talk to him. CM Punk has said so many things about WWE over the years. Who's to say he even wants to go back there? Like, he hated it. They sent him his termination letter on his wedding day. So, like, I have so many problems believing that will ever be a reality. But go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever believe that Cody Rhodes would go back to WWE?
Yes, because Cody, for whatever reason, this could be a whole nother show. Cody, for whatever reason, he was being booed in AEW. Like, they didn't like him there. The fans didn't like him. They didn't want anything to do with him. I want to say, for lack of, they kind of saw through his character, and they booted him right out of town. So that to me was more believable, because Cody Rhodes didn't leave on bad terms. He just left because he was upset with creative and there was nothing for him, and he wanted to learn a new hold, as they say.
Well, he did go and form a rival company, and he did that bit where he smashed the thing with the sledgehammer and basically shot a middle finger at Triple H figuratively, and still, Triple H was like, yeah, there's money here. Now, do I think he's ever going to win the title? No, because they're doing, they brought him back so they could screw with him, because that's what they do.
Right.
But that's a whole separate, as you said, that's a whole separate show that we can talk about. But again, I think Cody Rhodes is an example of, I think there were a lot of people that said, no, not in a million years would he ever go back there, or would they have him? And he did go back. So, I agree with the never say never. I think within 2 to 5 years, if it's more than 5 years, no, Punk would be too old. Within 2 to 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, looking back, it was probably more of a long shot, for somebody like Hogan to return when he returned. This is somebody.
Right. Hogan went back. Bret Hart went back.
Yeah. And then that's why they say it. Never say never. Yeah. I personally think there are too many legit personal feelings. I think that if you take away the Triple H equation, I think that there are people in the locker room of AEW that I think would rightfully so have a problem with him being there because of what's happened. If you're WWE and you look at this situation and you look at the way it was handled, you would have to say, like, if you're Kevin Dunn or Nick Khan or whoever, like, is this somebody we want in our locker room? Like, even if he can make us like a big payday, like, is this somebody we want to have around? I mean, because these are, like, that's where really William Regal is. Like, he's at NXT, he's at WWE. So anyway, like as they said, never say never. I wanted to mention some of my conversation with Ronnie though, and because if CM Punk does go anywhere, it would be, I suppose it would. I would be more able to believe him going back to AEW. Like
they go back.
Like some people.
What about Japan?
Maybe it's
what about Japan? Goes to Japan for a little bit.
He's too old and too set in his ways to go there. Some of those guys over there would knock him silly, I feel like. I mean, we saw him get knocked
silly. He goes back to MMA.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's what we all want to see.
You
see CM Punk versus Israel Adesanya for the belt. So, yeah, I think that. I mean, he's not going to TNA. He's not going to NWA. So, like, if there were a scenario for him to continue wrestling, it would be with WWE. And for WWE to do it, this place that not everybody, a lot of people in the comment section are saying is holier than thou, and they would never let anything like this happen, and all this kind of stuff. For them to accept him, even for like the buy rate and the payday, to me, it's like, wow, like they deserve whatever they get then in return. So
I would like to say something else. I just remembered the last time you and I had a bet, and it was about Anne Hathaway winning an Oscar, and I was correct.
What was the stipulation there? I don't remember.
She was nominated for what I can't remember what the movie was, and I said that she would win an Oscar within probably 5 to 6 years, and you said no way, and then she won it for Les Mis within that time frame.
Well, there you go.
I don't remember what the movie was now that she was originally nominated for.
Oh, and by the way, let me add an addendum to our bet.
Okay.
Just one. I am not counting him going into the Hall of Fame. Let's say.
Okay, fair. That's fair enough. He has to come back. Would you say he has to come back and wrestle a match?
Like Bret Hart came back, and for the most part, other than that, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, didn't really. Yeah, okay. So minus Hall of Fame appearance.
Minus the Hall of Fame. If he's just brought back to have him be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't count that.
Okay.
Some of the other small things to comment on. To date, we have not heard anything from CM Punk about this. And, newsflash, he won't be on any Colt Cabana podcast to talk about it this time. Sure. So, I mean, I'm sure somebody like Joe Rogan would have him. But, who knows?
Rogan had Hogan recently, and Hogan just – we should do a podcast where we just examine every Hulk Hogan lie.
He's an old man. He's had a lot of back surgeries, Leonard. What are you going to do?
It affects your brain.
So
okay, very quickly, she was nominated for Rachel Getting Married in 2009, and she won for Les Mis in 2013.
There you go. I got to watch my bet.
There you go. That's the last time you and I had a bet, and I won the bet. So
I got to
put that out there.
And so the newest piece of news today, as we record this, is that, and I had not known this, maybe some people didn't, is that they have released Ace Steel again.
I had not heard that, but it doesn't surprise me.
It did. I didn't know he was brought back as a producer. I think, from what I've read, primarily for CM Punk.
Yes, I knew that.
Like he was for CM Punk. Like CM Punk, I think, demanded to have him back, but whatever producing he was doing remotely, and he was doing, I think, mainly for CM Punk's content. So I did not know that he was back. It doesn't surprise me. It also doesn't surprise me that they released him. It's like, well, we don't need to keep this guy if he's working from home and his buddy isn't here, So I mean, if the position was eliminated, so to speak, then I guess there's no reason for him to continue to be there.
Yeah, that would make
So
sense.
the last question we'll end on here, Leonard, is about the show Collision, which we had previously talked about being a show centered around CM Punk, and initially, like he was kind of really attached to the success of that show. And as you will see posted, the ratings for Collision went down 19% right after Tony Khan made the statement that he did. And as Bruce Pritchard has said in his podcast about different situations, when you have somebody drop out of a match, initially the match was going to be CM Punk versus Ricky Starks at All Out, and what happened was they brought in Bryan Danielson. You got to bring in somebody as equal to or better than the person you had before. And I think they accomplished that with Bryan Danielson. And it doesn't surprise me that the Collision ratings are down, Leonard. Because my opinion, but the question was going to be, do we think Collision will be able to recover at any rate? My opinion on it is, I think if they have Bryan Danielson there, and who knows about the Edge Adam Copeland situation, if he's going to go there or not, that is in the ether. But if they have other people there to take the CM Punk spot, I think that Collision will be able to recover at least a little bit, if not totally. So,
ultimately it's up to TNT and TBS, the whole, Turner Empire, if they want to keep the show or not keep the show. And I think what they need to do is to still have some sort of distinct personality, and not just be another, Dynamite Junior or what have you. It needs to have a distinct personality. That they want to build that around Danielson or another veteran. Make that the veterans show. Make that more like, there was always the concept in WWE that Raw was the entertainment show, SmackDown was the wrestling show. You can still make Collision the wrestling show. I think you can do that. Danielson's a great veteran to center that around. So, yeah, it took a big dip because of everything surrounding this. I don't think it will ever be a huge ratings winner for them. But in this day and age, if you're pulling in, a few 100,000, one thing that I remember reading just now in Bischoff's book, which I mentioned, was when they came into TNA, they were drawing 1.2 million on average.
right.
And back then that was nothing. And today Tony Khan would kill for 1.2 million a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, the landscape has changed. But yeah, I think Collision will eventually get back to it will, if it gets cut, that will be a sign that the Turner Time Warner people have lost faith in AEW as a product, and it will probably be not just Collision getting cut, but part of either a complete cut or a serious reduction in programming.
Right. Yeah. I basically agree with you there. So let's speed through our All Out recap. It took place on September 3rd, 2023 at the United Center in Chicago, and the attendance there was listed as 9,826. I did not see every single match on this. I didn't see the Battle Royal at the beginning, which was for charity, that Adam Page won. And I didn't see the 6-women tag match or the 6-man tag team match for the trios titles. I didn't see any of the 0 Hour stuff, but I would like to at some point. But let me just speed through some of my opinions here on the other matches. First match was Adam Cole and MJF versus the Dark Order for the ROH tag team titles. This was a pretty good match for what it was. They did the whole injury angle to MJF. He left and then he came back. I'd probably give this like 3.25 stars. The second match, you had Samoa Joe against Shane Taylor for the ROH World Television Championship. Two big guys, 6 minutes, 25 seconds. This was about a 3-star match. Good for what it was, though. And they are setting up a program between Samoa Joe and MJF, clearly. I didn't see the Luchasaurus Darby Allin match for the AEW TNT Championship. So I won't rate that one. I did, however, see the Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs match, which, again, two big guys. This one went 15 minutes, 40 seconds. I gave this one like 3.25, 3.5 stars. Miro would win, and you would see the debut, finally, of Lana. And since 2021 that she made a wrestling appearance, and they have her debut here, and it looks like they're going to have her feud with her husband to start out, which was an interesting take on it because he looked surprised to see her there. So
Yes. Well, that was the last thing we saw her. She was with Bobby Lashley against her husband. So
that's true. Yeah, yeah. I'd love it if they mentioned that. Next match for the TBS Women's Championship, Chris Statlander against Ruby Soho. This one was about 2 3/4, 3 stars. Good for what it was. The next match, Bryan Danielson against Ricky Starks in a no disqualification strap match. This was a barn burner of a match. I would give this one, 4 1/4 stars, maybe, if not more. It was so good, so brutal to watch. You feel the blows in a match like this. And one hopes that Bryan Danielson is healthy and healed from whatever he was out for. So the match after that, Blackpool Combat Club of Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta against Eddie Kingston and Katsuhori Shibata. This one was, again, about 3 1/4 stars. We also had Konosuke Takeshita against Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega would do the job here for Takeshita. I would give this one 4 1/4 stars as well, if not 4.5. Really, really good. Kenny Omega does the job for a second time for this guy who he clearly likes a lot. You would then have Bullet Club Gold against FTR and the Young Bucks in an 8-man tag. Again, about 3.5 stars here. Good work all around. And the main event would be Jon Moxley against Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. To no one's surprise, a bloody affair. Orange Cassidy loses the belt after a long run, and this was also a very good match. I would give that one 4 stars. So All Out was a pretty solid pay-per-view overall. A lot of content there. So let us know what you thought of All Out 2023. Let us know what you think about the CM Punk situation. If you agree or disagree, I am willing to hear everything, as is Leonard, I'm sure. And
sure.
Please sound off in the comments. And we unfortunately didn't get to hear Pick'em for Leonard for All Out. Did you even do one?
Yes, and I don't remember what my record was. I don't think it was good.
Okay. Well, on that note, please check out our other videos, Segment Surgery, What's That Card, Random Match Reviews, Stupid Questions. We are also available wherever you listen to podcasts. And for Leonard, my name is Chad. We will see you next time. And Alexa, we'll see you out.